Breaking Dawn by Stephanie Meyer. Book 2. Jacob. And yet, to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. William Shakespeare. A Midsummer's Night Dream, Act 3, Scene 1. Preface. Life sucks, and then you die. Yeah, I should be so lucky. Chapter 8. Waiting for the damn fight to start already. Geez, Paul, don't you have a freaking home of your own? Paul lounged across my whole couch, watching some stupid baseball game on my crappy TV, just grinned at me. And then real slow, he lifted one Dorito from the bag in his lap and wedged it in his mouth in one piece. You better brought those with you. Crunch. Nope, he said while chewing. Your sister said I could go ahead and help myself to anything I wanted. I tried to make my voice sound like I wasn't about to punch him. Is Rachel here now? It didn't work. He heard where I was going and shoved the bag behind his back. The bag crackled as it smashed it into the cushion. The chips crunched into pieces. Paul's hands came up in fists, close to his face like a boxer. Bring it, kid. I don't need Rachel to protect me. I snorted. Right, like you won't go crying to her first chance. He laughed and relaxed into the sofa, dropping his hands. I'm not going to go tattle to a girl. If you got an unlucky hit, that'll be just between the two of us. And vice versa, right? Nice for him to give me an invitation. I may have already stopped like I'd given up. Right. His eyes shifted to the TV. I lunged. His nose made a very satisfying crunching sound of its own when my fists connected. He tried to grab me, but I danced that low before he could find a hold, with a ruined bag of Doritos in my left hand. You broke my nose, idiot! This is between us, right, Paul? I went to put the chips away. When I turned around, Paul was repositioning his nose before it could set crooked. The blood had already stopped. It looked like he had no sauce as it trickled down his lips and off his chin. He cussed, wincing as he pulled at the cartilage. You're such a pain, Jacob. I swear I'd rather hang out with Leah. Ouch. Wow. I bet Leah's really going to love to hear that you want to spend some quality time with her. It would just warm the cockles of her heart. You're going to forget I just said that. Of course. I'm sure it won't slip out. Ugh, he grunted, and settled back into the couch, wiping the leftover blood from the collar of his t-shirt. You're a fast kid, I'll give you that. He turned his attention back to the fuzzy game. I stood there for a second, and then I stalked off to my room, muttering about alien abductions. Back in the day, you could count on Paul for a fight pretty much whenever. You didn't have to hit him then. Any mild insult would do. It didn't take a lot to flip him out of control. Now, of course, when I really wanted a good snarling, whipping, break the trees down match, he had to be all mellow. Wasn't bad enough that he had another pack of the packet imprinted, because really that made 4 of 10 now. When would it stop? Stupid myth was supposed to be rare, for crying out loud. All this mandatory love at first sight was completely sickening. Did it have to be my sister? Did it have to be Paul? When Rachel had come home from Washington State at the end of summer semester, graduated early, the nerd, my biggest worry that had been about keeping a secret around her. I wasn't used to covering things up in my own home. Then we were sympathetic to kids like Embry and Colin, whose parents didn't know they were werewolves. Embry's mum thought it was going through some kind of rebellious stage. He was permanently grounded for constantly sneaking out, but of course there wasn't much she could do about that. She'd check his room every night, and every night it would be empty again. She'd yell and he'd take it in silence, then go through it all again the next day. We tried to sort of sound giving Embry a break and letting his mum in on the gig, but Embry said he didn't mind. The secret was too important. So I'd been all geared up to be keeping that secret, and then 2 years after Rachel got home, Paul ran into her on the beach. Bada bing, bada boom, true love. No secrets necessary when you found your other half and all that imprinted werewolf garbage. Rachel got the whole story, and I got Paul as a brother-in-law someday. I knew Billy wasn't much thought about it either, but he handled it better than I did. Of course, he did escape to the Clearwaters more often than usual these days. I didn't see why that was so much better. No Paul, but plenty of Leah. I wondered, would a bullet through my temple actually kill me, or just a really big mess for me to clean up? I threw myself down on the bed. I was tired. I hadn't slept since my last patrol, but I knew I wasn't going to sleep. My head was too crazy. The thoughts bounced around in my skull like a disoriented swarm of bees. Noisy. Now and then they stung. Must be hornets, not bees. Bees died after one sting, and the same thoughts were stinging me again and again. The waiting was driving me insane. It had been almost 4 weeks. I expected one way or another that the news would have come by now. I sat up nights, imagining what form it would take. Charlie sobbing on the phone. Belle and her husband lost in an accident. A plane crash. That'll be hard to fake. Unless the leeches didn't mind killing a bunch of bystanders to authenticate it. And why would they? Maybe a small plane instead. Probably have one of those to spare. Or would the murderer come home alone, unsuccessful in his attempt to make her one of them, or not even getting that far? Maybe he smashed like a bag of chips in his drive to get some, because her life was less important to him than his own pleasure. The story was so tragic. Belle lost in a horrible accident, victim of a mugging gone wrong, choking to death at dinner, a car accident like my mum. So common. Happened all the time. Would you bring her home? Bury her here for Charlie? Close classic ceremony, of course. My mum's coffin had been nailed shut. I could only hope that he'd come back here, within my reach. Maybe there'd be no story at all. Maybe Charlie would call to ask my dad if he'd heard anything from Dr. Cullen, who just didn't show up to work one day. The house abandoned. No answer on any of the Cullens' phones. The mystery picked up by some second-rate news programme. Foul play suspected. Maybe the big white house would burn to the ground. Everyone trapped inside. Of course, there are no bodies for that one. 8 humans of roughly the right size, burned beyond recognition, but beyond the help of dental records. I thought those would be tricky for me, that is. It would be hard to find them if they didn't want to be found. Of course, I had forever to look. If you had forever, you could check out every single piece of straw in the haystack, one by one, to see if it was the needle. Right now, I didn't mind dismantling a haystack. At least that was something to do. I hated knowing that I could be losing my chance, giving the bloodsuckers the time to escape if that was their plan. We could go tonight. We could kill every one of them that we could find. I liked that plan because I knew Edward was well enough to know that if I killed any one of his coven, I would get my chance at him too. He'd come for revenge, and I'd give it to him. I wouldn't let my brothers take him down as a pack. It would be just me and him. May a better man win. But Sam wouldn't hear of it. We're not going to break the treaty, Jacob. Let them make the breach, just because we had no proof that Cullen had done anything wrong. Yet. You had to add the yet, because we all knew that it was inevitable. Bella was either come back one of them, or not coming back at all. Either way, human life had been lost, and that meant game on. In the other room, Paul brayed like a mule. Maybe he'd switched to a comedy. Maybe the commercial was funny. Whatever. It grated on my nerves. I thought about breaking his nose again, but it wasn't Paul I wanted to fight with. Not really. I tried to listen to other sounds, the wind in the trees. It wasn't the same, not for human ears. There was a million voices in the wind that I couldn't hear in this body. But these ears were sensitive enough. I could hear past the trees to the road, the sounds of the cars coming around that last bend we could finally see the beach, the vista of the islands and the rocks and the big blue ocean stretching to the horizon. The Lapush cops that like to hang out right round there. The tourists never noticed the reduced speed limit sign on the other side of the road. I could hear the voices outside the souvenir shop on the beach. I could hear the cowbell clanging as the door opened and closed. I could hear Embry's mum at the cash register printing out a receipt. I could hear the tide raking across the beach rocks. I could hear the kids squeal as the icy water rushed too fast and to get out of the way. I could hear the mums complain about the wet clothes. I could hear a familiar voice. I was listening so hard that a sudden burst of Paul's donkey laugh made me jump half of the bed. "Get out of my house," I grumbled. Knowing that he wouldn't pay any attention, I followed my own advice. I wrenched open my window and climbed out the back way so that I wouldn't have to see Paul again. It would be too tempting. I knew I'd hit him again. I Rachel was going to be pissed enough already. She'd see the blood in his shirt and she'd blame me right away without waiting for proof. Of course she'd be right. But still.